All right, everybody. So, our first and only review of the day is going to be for the documentary there, Louis the Rose there, Inside the Manosphere, which is on Netflix. We don't review a lot of documentaries on this channel, so it's always a good chance to, it's always a good time to, check one out there. And this one's getting a lot of traction there of this documentarian, Louis the Rose there, who's pretty big. He's from England there, and he's got a long resume of doing a lot of other documentaries, of going inside these different communities there, investigating it, talking to figures in those communities. And this time, the subject of this documentary obviously is the people of the figures of the Manosphere. So it follows about four figures. So it's like people who are prominent figures in it. Sneeko there. You have Myron Gaines from Fresh and Fit. You got Justin Waller, and you got a guy named HS there, who are the main people that he talks to there, exploring this kind of community. Then also he also kind of talks to some fans of these people there, like two dudes who are like fans of these people and why they are fans of them. He also talks to some of the women, some of the people in their lives. Like, for example, he talks to Justin Waller, he talks to his wife there about like, so how does that work for you? Your whole thing of like the whole one-way monogamy type thing. Like, how do you feel about that? And how does that work for you? And just trying to understand these dynamics there. So it's mainly just him kind of going around asking questions. You know what I mean? There's little pushback that he gives here and there of some of the things that they say about women, about various groups of people, Jewish people there, of like, the way they kind of view the world, and how they kind of see things. For example, HS, you know what I mean? He finds OnlyFans workers disgusting, deplorable, hates them, but he owns a company that manages OnlyFans girls. That's what he makes money off of OnlyFans girls, even though, like you said, he finds it deplorable and disgusting and absolutely vile there, and would hate it if, his daughter or anybody in his life, a woman close to him did it. Yeah. So, Mike, what are your thoughts, man, on Inside the Manosphere?
Yeah, I think it was kind of like viewing a dead body. No, it's just like it's like really gross, but like technically Louis isn't doing anything to upset the body. He's just showing you the whole thing, like all the aspects of it, all the unsavory parts, and you can't say like I hate that. It's like okay, but like that's what it is. And I thought this was a really it's as insightful as it is frustrating because you see kind of just the like the level of boxes these guys put themselves into, and you do kind of see Louis wanting to reach out a little bit and like trying to like be a bit more genuinely friendly, but like these guys are just kind of like showing their like how limited their worldview is, and just like it's that aspect of what's it called of like they know so little in general that they think they know so much more. It's just like it's the loudest and the most like confident people because they don't know the flaws of like their research and their minds, and they just find things to confirm their beliefs. So like they're just incurious, sad people at the end of the day.
Mm. Did you already know who these people were before the documentary?
Not really. I knew some of them just through like association of like being on the internet because I know who Sneeko is. I know about the Take guys, but I did not know most of these people.
Okay. And let me read Bookworm's comment here. So, this is his reference to the manosphere here. He says, it is interesting to me how the discussion of the manosphere have gotten more and more mainstream over time, because this was such an online specific discussion, and now it's grown so large in the last decade. And he follows it on when he says, especially now, I feel like older men are being drawn into this as they start following these figures through YouTube and podcasting. That gets into a point there. So would you say like the manosphere stuff has like gotten bigger within the last like 10
Definitely.
years? Like 2016 is where it really started.
It's gotten a lot more mainstream as well. And we have these guys like in politics because a lot of these guys were kind of like almost like show ponies to a degree for a lot of time of like this isn't something useful, but it's like it's just something you kind of point and laugh at online, and they're not causing any real harm. But now these guys are in politics, they're into like uh they are influencing elections. They're kind of wanting to get involved in a lot of stuff, and they don't have like the background or education or like curiosity to actually like work those things, and so like they just kind of end up being grifters to a degree.
Mm. So me, I'd say my brain is like pretty rotted there.
Mm,
So I already knew a lot about these guys already going into this already, just through watching like video essays about the Manosphere, watching commentary channels talk about these guys. So I knew kind of, through some of them there. The most I know about is maybe Sneeko there, because he's a
mhm.
bigger, him and Myron Gaines are two of the bigger figures. Justin Waller, I vaguely kind of knew about. And then I knew about because he has an association with Andrew Tate, and then also he got embarrassed in like one debate there where he was like debating some trad wife girl on a podcast, and he got triggered there. And then HS guy, I think I've seen him before. Again, I knew vaguely about him as well there, but I didn't know much of it. But all this stuff I've heard them say before in various other forums and podcasts and debates and stuff where people have clipped it and put it online and everything like that.
Do you know what Andrew Tate started out on?
Like what platform he started off on?
Kind of, but what kind of got him a bit more famous, like way back in the day? This was before the Manosphere stuff.
Oh, well, I think his claim to fame was he started in combat sports. He was like a kickboxer.
He
And then
started on Big Brother.
yeah,
That
oh yeah, the reality show too,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's interesting to see him before he like developed his like new Tate persona of like I don't give a fuck. I'm cool. I'm the best ever. And it's just like when he's around people who aren't like his followers, like teenage boys and stuff like that. People who like buy this dumb stuff, and like he meets like an adult with like a fully formed brain. He's kind of like meek whenever there's a discussion between the two of them because he just immediately backs down whenever he gets like someone like above him and like clearly more intelligent than him and well spoken than him, because now Andrew Tate just has this whole like followers and all these like risks to the point where I think it's kind of messed up his brain into thinking he is actually that guy. It's kind of the whole that one Paul brother effect who went to fight Anthony
Joshua.
Joshua. Yeah,
Oh
and
yeah,
like
Jake Paul.
immediately lost. It's like, yeah, because you were like basically doing carny like fights beforehand, and now you actually like tricked your brain into thinking that you are that guy.
Mm. Yeah, I remember he did that debate with Hassan Piker there, and it was all about the flat Earth debate there,
Mhm.
or some. Well, it was more than that. They were debating just in general about various things, and then they were discussing, I think, can women drive or not? And then Hassan was pulling up all this information, and then as a retort to that, he was like, "Well, do you believe that the Earth is round or flat?" Because I think Andrew Tate had said that he didn't trust science or he didn't trust things he read or whatever, and he just kind of like rage quit the debate. You know what I mean? He just kind of did that or whatever. He just, oh, this is boring. I don't want to talk anymore. You know what I mean? And smoke his cigar. You know what I mean? And took his headphones off. So yeah, you do have kind of that element there, and like you see like even in this movie where this documentary here with Louis Theroux's talking to HS, and he's trying to like kind of talking about like, don't you think it's a little hypocritical, like because the guy HS he did like an interview with Bonnie Blue, and he was like talking down on Bonnie Blue, who Bonnie Blue is like a sex worker, and
Mhm.
she's gone viral online a lot because she does these you speak about like carny, I guess like carnival festival styles, like sex acts and things like that on the internet that get all this attention. And he was calling her disgusting and she's vile and evil and everything like that. And he says, well, I mean, aren't you two kind of similar? You know what I mean? I mean, you make money off sex work, and you said like, well, I only do this because I'm just trying to feed my family and I'm trying to provide for them and everything like that. So in a way, aren't you kind of like Bonnie Blue? And you can see him getting like a little triggered and getting mad about the fact of being in the same league as Bonnie Blue. So I thought that was kind of interesting there. And you mentioned that you're more familiar with Louis Theroux's work there, and he doesn't really, because some criticism I see is like he doesn't really maybe challenge a lot of these viewpoints too much of these guys. Like he doesn't
Mhm.
really do much pushback there. What do you say to that?
Is he obligated to do that though? Like, is that what he's here for? Because from what I've seen in the interviews he's done, his goal is to just kind of like show what these people think and show what they say and just give like a undocumented like, hey, here it is, here's like everything. And it's not as like do they deserve like the whole like sit down discussion and like try to change their ways and stuff like that, or is it more effective to just show these people like what they are?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, from my understanding of his work, I mean, that's like you said, he kind of what he does. He just kind of goes into this world and kind of presents it of it how it is there. And he, like I said, he does do that some bit of it. You know what I mean, to a degree of some things. Like Sneeko, he's talking about like conspiracy theories and the whole world is run by satanic
Yeah.
Satanists and everything like that. And he tries to kind of do a little pushback there with that, but that kind of gets into my next point of like, who is this documentary for? You know what I mean? This whole thing. And like for someone like me, I feel like it really didn't do much for me because
Okay.
I already, like I said, I already know about who these figures are. And then if you really want to more explorative, like the manosphere, the figures of the manosphere, why people get into the manosphere, I feel like there's other videos that do that better that you can get on YouTube for free, like Mooncat, who's a content creator, YouTuber who did like a video called Debunking the Manosphere. There's FD Signifier, who's a big video essayist who's done like
Friend
a
of the show, Macabre Storytelling, who I've talked to a handful of times. I think also you have.
yeah.
One of his big videos was about talking about like young man getting into the dating scene, and he was very sympathetic because he was that guy. He's like, I get why kids kind of fall down that route, and I really like his video. I would really recommend like young men watching that. And I think it's a very empathetic video, but like in the later years to come, we have seen like guys who have just kind of like dug their heels in and just like they've gotten like so much sympathy that's like, how do you kind of like at this point, like, should we kind of approach with sympathy or should it just be like, hey, just a reminder, this is what's going on to a degree with these fellas? Uh, 'Cause it's that thing of, like, we've had so many shows and books and, like, movies and, series that are, like, from, grifter, like, this guy's kind of point of view, or someone with, like, toxic masculinity, and so many of them do still miss the point no matter, like, how insane it gets, so it's like, is it almost, like, more effective to portray them as, like, just, like, their everyday kind of person? Because like, I think my hope would be I think, like, maybe a young man, like, teenager would see this stuff, like, maybe this documentary and be like, "Oh, I don't wanna be like that. That looks really lame."
Mm. Bookworm said, my brother followed Andrew Tate near the end of high school there, and it's genuinely perplexing because he is such a stupid, charmless person. And it's scary because he was also falling into accusing the women, talking about how the Tate brothers trafficked them of being liars there. Um, and so you mentioned that of like, how do you approach these kind of discussions? Because, like I said, he does talk to two guys there who are fans of these type of figures. I think they were fans of Justin Waller, particularly, and these two dudes. And then there's one guy he's talking to, and he says, like, man, I had kind of rough. I was homeless. I was living in my car. I was crying every day, every night, going to sleep. Um, I didn't know what to do, but this content, it really helped me. And you know what I mean? And they also said that, the one guy said, like, well, depression, that doesn't exist. That's not real. And he also mentioned like his brother passed away. And then Louis Theroux goes, oh, well, how did your brother pass away? And he's like, well, I mean, my brother took his own life, but that was the past, that didn't matter. It's like Jesus Christ, so things like that. So I guess it kind of, I mean, they kind of present that of like, how somebody kind of gets into this type of worldview, given that. What did you think about those two figures in the documentary?
I genuinely hope the best for them. I hope they get their feet back on track because it's like being a young man, you are so especially with, like, the internet now, your brain's so malleable and so easy to fall down a wrong corner, and I do hope these 2 young men do get their lives, back on track, but it's like, I want to approach this from a sympathetic point of view because I can see a part in my life where I would go down a route like that, but, like, as you get older, you do have more responsibilities toward yourself, and, like, you are going to be partially responsible for your own happiness at the end of the day, and
Mm,
I don't know, I think also just leading on, like, viewing these men as, like, prophets and, like, people who, like, give the good word, it's like, I don't think this is the right choice, like, there are better, healthier men for you to watch and to follow than these guys. I also think something that's kind of important in this movie that I showed was the final, like, 15-10 minutes where the British guy, HS, I think,
yeah. HS.
we meet his mom, and earlier in the documentary, he said, like, "Yo, I'm racist, I'm homophobic, I'm sexist, I'm all that stuff," and then Louis repeats that to the mom, And the mom goes, "I didn't raise you to be like that." He just like, he's like, "I didn't like mean it like that." It's just like you kind of see the cowardice in these men, and just like they're like, they're just putting on a front for the most part of like this is just like a grift, and like I do think they are, racist and sexist, but I also think they're just kind of cowards of it's just like, so you say this, and you believe this, you make money from it, but when your mommy scolds you, you have to like back down immediately. Just
And
kind of
it's
like,
fun.
you've seen Better Call Saul, right?
Yeah.
Tuco Salamanca, very masculine, very like aggressive in your face, not afraid to get physical. But when we see him with his grandma, and he's just so soft spoken and doesn't want to like offend her or do anything like that, just like that's kind of like the mindset of a lot of the whole machismo kind of dudes of like the classic like like shitty Italian guy or stuff like that of just like the dudes who just like have to prove their masculinity so much, but like the moment their mom like says something to them, they immediately back down.
Mm. And it's funny thing about the mother, because even before meeting her, he tells HS tells Louis Theroux that it's like, yeah, my mother, she hates racism, she hates sexism, absolutely despises it. She does not like that at all. And then yet he's basically all those things. Um, and you see that, at the end of towards the tail end of the documentary, they kind of mention a lot of the figures that he's talking to. They kind of come from broken homes, some of them, HS, his father wasn't around. Justin
Join the
Waller,
club, brother. Just
like his father wasn't around. Then also with Justin Waller, he came from like an abusive household. Like his mother and father used to fight all the time, and the way he talks about his mother is that she maybe had some mental health issues and some things like that. So I mean, those were two of the figures that they don't really get into the background of Myron Gaines's personal, like his family life or anything,
right.
or Sneako's family life too much, but um do you think that some of that, like, it starts at the home a lot of times with these
Definitely to a
stories?
degree, but it's like, as you get older, you do have a responsibility to yourself and to the others around you to kind of like, and it can be tough. Changing can be so tough, and I have sympathy for a lot of dudes, but like, fucking change. You're making everyone miserable out here. Just, uh, but it's like you do have the responsibility for your actions and for your mentality and how you affect others. Have you seen, there was a YouTuber who made like a video essay about Louis CK, Comedy Without Errors.
I don't think I know them.
Really, yeah, I just saw stuff. Really great videos, really personal because he was talking about like how he was such a fan of Louis C.K. He was documenting kind of like both the scandal, Louis' history when it comes to lying, Louis' like kind of right wing grift now, and like Louis' past when it comes to like what he's talked about with like his relationship with sexuality and like assault and like the background he has with his dad. And he mentioned like you can definitely feel bad for the child form of Louis, but as an adult, you do have a responsibility to like, not harm others. That's what like psychiatrists are for, just because you have your own personal baggage.
Mhm. And I guess this leads into my next point here of you mentioned earlier how, some of these people and feeling sympathy for them. And it kind of gets in when this whole discussion leads into like male loneliness epidemic, the men in that, how they get sucked into it. Like, how do you, and waving the red flag also is another podcast, YouTube content creator I listen to, and they talk about this of like, how do you differentiate between the guys that kind of just go like, I'm struggling, like I'm meeting people, dating women, you know what I mean, like I'm having issues with that, but nobody's giving me really that advice, that guidance on how to be the way I'm supposed to be, and meeting people like between the difference between that guy and then the guy that's like hardcore, like, femoids and, fuck women and all that stuff like that, and who puts under that negative harm there. Do you think that people just lump all those people into one group there?
I do think to a degree that does happen online. I think the best way to kind of see these, like maybe differentiate them a lot is because dating is scary and like, making relationships is tough, especially like in this environment. But there's not a grand conspiracy against you specifically as a man. I think you have to like if you are feeling these feelings of loneliness and like that dating has become so tough, you do have to understand that like we're kind of in a weird loneliness epidemic as a whole, like women as well. Like third spaces are pretty much gone. Like there's so many apps and social media that makes it so hard to like connect with people and like dating's and also an issue. It's like this is tough. This is definitely tough, but you if they don't extend that sympathy towards women, like just people who aren't them and like going through the same stuff as them, like a gay man, I do think like that's gonna be like kind of a red flag, and maybe you should like talk to them. But like if they're like fully deep in it, it's like you're gonna have to like kind of cut them off to a degree.
Mm. Interesting there. Um, yeah, and the documentary, it's pretty short. It's only like an hour and 30
Yeah.
something minutes there. So it's a not that long of a watch there. Who was a figure that Louis Theroux talked to that you found kind of like, I don't know, interesting, I guess would be the word, I guess, to say
Kind
like,
of the well, I think he was from Florida. He was from the South.
oh, Louisiana,
Yeah,
Justin
Louisiana
Waller.
is what I'm thinking too. Because I do think he kind of has maybe the best head on his shoulders, all things considered, when it comes to the men around him. And I do think he does like love his wife to a degree, but it's also that aspect of I do have sympathy. I do feel bad for you, but don't you want to live in a world where that stuff doesn't happen to someone else, like to another woman or to like another man? And like, I don't know, like it feels like you're not really happy right now. It feels
Mm,
like you're kind of like trapped. And it is that thing of like, there are definitely some people who are born into like poverty and like cycles of like abuse. And it's like, it is tough to get out of. And it's always kind of a shame when someone gets out of it. It just uses it to like kind of kick the ladder down, you know?
yeah. Yeah, because he kind of represents like a rags to riches story of like, hey, if I can do this, you can do it too. I grew up dirt poor, and now I'm, I think his business was steel, like he was like construction and he did like a
Yeah.
steel company or whatever. He did that, and that's how he was able to kind of amass a lot of the money too. But then he also joined with the Tates, who are like alleged human traffickers, and then
Yeah.
he was a part of that organization
Well, that's
there
the thing,
too.
the Tates are nepo babies. Like, they have, like, very wealthy parents, and, like, they got, like, multiple educations because they were able to have, like, dual citizenship, and that's something I kinda 'cause, like, these guys are just kind of frauds at the end of the day. Even Andrew Tate's, like, win-loss record when it comes to combat sports, he specifically, like, went to people out of his weight group and, like, people who are, like, new to fighting so he would win. The moment he fights like an actual professional, he's, like, on his knees in the 1st round.
And even that dude wasn't like a real professional guy. That was like some reality star
Mhm,
guy,
mhm.
Chase Demore or whatever. There's that there. And there's a good video I can link in the description there that discusses like his whole from what's his name? Eye Patch Wolf there.
Oh, the
Um,
Irish fella?
yeah, like he went through like Andrew Tate's whole record of combat sports and was like, yeah, this doesn't add up. Like this shit is kind of
Mhm.
yeah, this is kind of fraudulent, maybe. Um, and it's the Justin Waller guy. There's a scene where he goes to his house, Louis Theroux. He goes to his house and talks to his wife there, and his wife, he talks to her about it, and that's kind of an interesting perspective to discuss, like the women in a lot of these dudes' lives and like how they maintain relationships, and they're not even married, even
No.
though they have like two children and I think one on the way. Like she was pregnant at the time of this documentary. Um, and he says, like, well, you know what I mean? What did you do before? And what do you think about him having the one-way monogamy? And she goes, like, well, she was an X-ray technician. So she
Yeah.
went to college. I assume she had a degree, she get a degree for that, went to college and everything for that. But then she was like, well, you know what I mean? I like my job, but I don't miss waking up early, like 5 a.m. to go to work and have a boss tell me what to do. But you having another guy tell you what to do. I mean, so it's kind of like this is like unpaid labor you're doing, basically. I mean, doing all this for this guy.
It's kind of the
Uh,
thing with a lot of these fellas of they don't actually want like the good Christian trad wife kind of person. They want like a woman who does have a career and does have like, accomplishments and other things around her. So kind of like clipping the wings, you know. Did you ever read the article about that one guy who was like the son of an airplane CEO who there was a woman he was attracted to, and so because his dad owned like basically the Air Spiritways, he
oh,
basically made it so, like, he would always sit next to her on a flight until she eventually fell in love with him, and now they have, like, kids, and she doesn't have a job again. Just
was that the woman who people were talking about that was part of that farm, and then she was that woman there?
maybe, but it was just
I
like she
think
had a career, and it's just like this dude just kind of wore her down in a sad way.
yeah, I did hear about that. I think, yeah, a lot of women were because that kind of blew up on TikTok. She has like I think has like a popular TikTok account where she mentions that. Yeah, Ballerina Farm. That's what it was. Yeah,
Oh my god.
I do remember that there. And Bookworm says there was a great gag in the King of the Hill reboot where Andrew Tate Figure made his entire Manosphere program with his mom's money there. And they said now she's being sued for selling raw milk.
Ooh,
Okay.
why is it always raw milk with these guys? Just
Yeah, because I think it didn't the Department of Health try to do that at first. They tried to do raw milk at first, but then they were like, "Oh shit, we can't do that because people actually can get really fucking sick
yep,
from that."
because it's
Eh,
just like you're not supposed to drink raw milk because we don't have like we don't produce the hormones that like let us be able to like eat it, just consume it.
Yeah. And then also there's another case where Louis Theroux talks to Myron Gaines. He talks to his girlfriend Angie there, and then about the whole concept of Myron Gaines, and it's like, he says like, "Oh, I want multiple wives, I want multiple partners," and Angie, she would have to be okay with that and everything. He asked her, straight up like, "Are you okay with it?" She kind of go, "Oh, well, I don't know about that, maybe."
And
I
look,
gotta
if you're in a situation where you're like polyamorous or like I don't know, non-monogamous or uh like I don't know, like you're just not married. Like that's fine if it's a healthy like circumstance. There are people who do have those healthy lives. But when you kind of do it as an aspect, just like, well, I want all the stuff and she gets nothing, that's a red flag.
Mm, yeah. What'd you think? Do you think that was good showing a lot of the relationships between some of these
Yeah,
figures
yeah,
there?
definitely. Yeah, I
Mm,
think it's like again, I it's a sad thing, but I think the way you do kind of defeat these guys is kind of showing like that dweeb aspect of them. I think it's why Ben Shapiro doesn't have the same cultural hold he had years ago, is because he
mm.
accidentally made that tweet where he revealed he's bat sex because he doesn't know what's like when a woman gets turned on. Just it's like that's how you defeat them. It's like, is this your idol, the guy who doesn't know how to make a lady happy?
Mm. Yeah. So you think that's kind of the best way? Yeah, just
Kind
to
of.
kind of expose the hypocrisy and kind of just laugh at them and
Yeah, it's like I mean, a lot of these guys are just kind of dorks at the end of the day. Just
mhm. Yeah, very present a very like 15-year-old's idea of cool, the smoking cigars, the fast cars, also the women there as well in their lives. And then you see HS, some of the women that he's with. I mean, a lot of these women, I mean, it's a symbiotic type of relationship. I mean, they get clout off of him, he gets clout off of the women. They make money off of the audience that he caters to there.
mhm.
So they don't really care how they're viewed or seen there. I think a lot of that. So you have a lot of that aspect and kind of things as well. Yeah. What be your final thoughts rating for Inside the Manosphere?
I give it a solid tune in. I think it's a great just look into these people. If because of the culture we live in terms of the internet, I think a lot of people would have been exposed to these people or see like video essays about them, like as you mentioned, the FD signifiers, the macabre storytellers. Like they've definitely talked to these people. You're not going to get as probably as personal as you will with the as this interview. So if you really want that, I would recommend it. Uh, but yeah, like a solid 2 and end.
Okay. Yeah, for me, like I said, I mean, I don't think this really does a whole lot for me. I still thought it was decent there. I would give it just a stream it for me there with it. But like I said, there's some like Mooncat, FD Signifier, Macabre storytelling, even, commentary channels like Abba and Preach or Moist Critical that make fun of these dudes and kind of do short videos just clowning these dudes. Like, there's one co-host of the Fresh and Fit podcast that is shown in this documentary, but they don't talk to him or interview him. It's just focused on the one that's fit the Myron Gaines, where he had a video that came out and said that he claimed he slept with 1,000 women. And then everybody was like, bro, you did not sleep with 1,000. Like, this is fucking cap. And when he told the story of, what I mean, him doing it and him going throughout and how he was able to do it, it's like people know, like, fuck no, this is not true, man. And
That
they all
counts as a sex. I went up and I slapped a lady, and that counts as a sex.
like it just people just clown them for it. So it's like stuff like that. I mean, you have these things that do all this and talk about these figures, and you could say like, well, a lot of these video essays they don't actually interview these people or
That's
interview
true.
some of these guys. So I guess that's the benefit that this documentary has. But like I said, a lot of stuff that they're saying in this documentary is stuff that they've said on podcasts, the stuff
Mhm.
they've said on debates, the stuff they've said on various TikTok and Reels clips and everything you can find of them saying the same things about one-way monogamy, about women are worthless and women are, are stupid or whatever. I mean, you can do all that type of stuff there, and find that. With that kind of aspect of things and pointing out the hypocrisy of a lot of these dudes of rules that they set, but then immediately they kind of break those rules because they only care about making money and trying to do that. So if this is a good, I think, introductory documentary, if you're somebody who, what I mean, heard about the Manosphere and kind of want to more get into or kind of learn about it. I think this is a good introductory type of thing for the people like that. But like I said, I'll link some other better, I think, videos there in the
Mhm.
description below, which videos people have said that they've showed them to their friends and that helped them pull them out of the alt-right pipeline. And,
I mean,
you
yeah,
know,
whatever works, works.
yeah, so you do have that there, but I'm not disparaging the work here that Louis Theroux did there with these kind of people, and with that. So for me, I just kind of give it a lowish kind of regular stream it there
Okay.
for me with that with kind of this documentary. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was our thoughts there on Inside the Manosphere. There, do you think the Manosphere is getting bigger, or you think it's getting diminishing?
I think it got bigger, but I think it got bigger to the point where like now it can't sustain itself, and we're seeing the leaks and the cracks because now more people are paying attention to them, and now we're seeing people just like, wait, are these guys like actually like really lame? And just like the balloon is it's not popping, but like there are a bunch of holes like popped in it. It's like it's bleeding out essentially.
Mm. Well, the new superstar, the Manosphere, is what Clavicular, right? That's the new superstar, right? It seems like Andrew Tate's kind of washed now. I think
Yeah,
it seems like he's kind of washed. But yeah, Clavicular guy. Do you know him?
I don't think so. Is he bald?
No, he's not
Okay.
bald. He's the dude that smashes his face with a hammer and he does crystal meth.
Oh, no, I think I've seen a picture of this guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he looks like
Of,
people
like,
say.
the guys who, they're against gender affirming care, but, like, they will do this shit to their face.
Yeah, somebody say he looks like evil David Corn Sweat, the Superman. He kind of looks like that a little bit. Yeah. So, thank you so much, Mike.
Yeah, no problem.
Much appreciated, man. Thanks for coming out on this early Sunday, man.